Welcome to TradeSquare, Australia's leading business-to-business marketplace. I'm Catherine van der Meulen, and joining me today is Dianna Somerville, Community Manager at BridgeHub and founder of the Regional Pitch Fest. Today, we're going to be talking about enabling regional Australian small business growth through new thinking. Hi, Di. How are you?
Really well, Catherine. How are you?
Good, thank you. So tell us, who is Dianna Somerville?
It's an evolution, but I am a regional born and bred woman. Ran away, joined the Navy, drove warships for a little while, and hoped that I'd never have to go back to regional Australia. Ended up falling in love with a farmer and moving straight back to the regions. And then really have reinvented myself over the last 15 years, and got involved in regional startups and entrepreneurship, and also the innovation space, and really tried to drive the opportunities for regional Australia and ensuring that regional Australia has, I guess, a place in the conversation towards how we evolve our economic development in the regions, how we, I guess, bring new agri-tech and food tech to life, and how we become more globally connected.
And so tell us about your call to adventure to joining BridgeHub and launching the Regional Pitch Fest.
I'll start with Pitchfest because that sort of happened first, and like I said, I had seen this opportunity in the regions to ensure that regional businesses, startups, and people working in that space were seen and highlighted, and also supported. And so I created the event Pitchfest, Regional Pitchfest, to really become a platform and a megaphone for those stories, and that activity, and was really fortunate that Australia Post came on board and backed my program. We did 87 events across every state and territory in a very short time frame, which was a lot of fun, but also really eye-opening in terms of what was happening in our regional areas back in 2017, and the opportunity that, I reflect now only 4 years later and think how much has actually changed. So that drive for me really came from ensuring that my kids, when they maybe come back to a regional area, or others like me that return or move to the regions, have opportunity and have examples of others succeeding, and knowing that they can do the same thing. With BridgeHub, also through that innovation space, was really fortunate to meet two extraordinary founders, Craig Shapiro and Grant Fusey, who asked me to come and work in the BridgeHub team. And BridgeHub is really about a whole of life cycle innovation hub for ag and food technology, which is based in Wagga in the Riverina, with an office in Sydney, and also really strong linkages into Israel. So that whole experience has allowed me to understand on a global level the opportunity for Australian agri-tech, and also understanding other ecosystems and how they work and what we can learn from them.
So you work a lot with agri-food technology organisations. How are you seeing Australian businesses really adding value to the world?
Look, I think we're really on the cusp of something exciting in agri-food, agri-tech in Australia, and there seems to be momentum building towards this great opportunity to commercialize research that's occurring. And Australia has so much depth in the research that they do in the agri-food space. And always what's been a barrier for us is the commercialization of that research. So I think the opportunity for business here is, and how that can transform Australia and our economy, is to really take that research and commercialize that, and be an absolute sort of giver of technology and provider of technology and technology solutions in the agri-food space, not just here in Australia, but on a global stage. The problems and the challenges and the uniqueness of our agri-system allows us to really be at the forefront of this technology, when we've got great forward-thinking producers and across the supply chain, and we're also getting the support that we need from the organisations and private investment coming to the table.
And so how have resilient, dynamic and resourceful individuals really played a key role in working towards transforming Australian businesses?
Well, this is, individuals and people are the most important part of any system and any ecosystem. I think on a regional level, it's the people that I refer to as the activators in these regional areas that see the opportunity, aren't afraid to take that bit of a leap and do something different, and help bring others on the journey. So, these activators are usually the people running, the little co-working space in their regional town, or, the economic development manager at the local council, the head of the business chamber. And these pockets of people are really taking a transformative role in their community and bringing their community along the journey. And often they'll do this whilst they're banging their heads up against brick walls constantly, but they see the bigger picture and the journey. And I think, COVID-19's really shown, and I think it's been a catalyst for these conversations within local communities. So those people that have that resilience, to be able to continue having that conversation, are just so vital to our communities. And then on an ag scale, when we look at climate variability and the role of drought and flood and mice plagues and etc., our producers really do help underpin the economy of Australia. So having not only resilient producers but resilient communities around those producers is so vital to our economy. And I think over the past 12 months with the downturn through COVID, we were really fortunate to have an extremely successful agricultural season, where farmers have been holding on for a lot of years to actually make some profit, and that's turning back into our economy now, which is fantastic.
And so what's a key message that you are super passionate about that you are advocating and championing for?
It's really about rethinking the regions, and rethinking, I guess, the role of investment in the regions and how that can help propel us on a national and global scale. So for me, I'm always passionate about our regional areas, and I see the opportunity. I think it's about demystifying some of the conversation and the dialogue about what's happening in regional Australia and the opportunity that regional Australia holds, not just as somewhere nice to live and an easier lifestyle and livability, but as a major contributor to the nation's economy.
So Di, what are some of the hot topics in the BridgeHub office?
So within the BridgeHub office, I think something we're all really excited about and looking sort of anxiously and vividly towards is the conversation around carbon and carbon capture and the role that this can play within agriculture, and the opportunity for Australia to really be a leader in this space. And I think it's super interesting and something we're definitely keeping an eye on and discussing a lot. And the other is water. And I mean, carbon and water are very, very intricately linked. And when we talk about water, it's sort of okay now, the drought's over, everything's great, but climate variability is just going to be an ongoing issue, and we need to change our cultural attitude towards water here in Australia and how we value this resource and what we do to ensure that we can ride those waves of climate variability. So water and carbon.
And what are some of the ways that you are actively challenging the status quo in your world?
Well, I think being very annoying and always speaking up for the regions and being a voice, and not being, I guess, afraid to ensure that the voice is heard. So I think also bringing people together and connecting dots is important, and also shifting this culture of competitiveness within Australia, and the tall poppy syndrome and all of those attitudes of she'll be right, mate, and don't worry about it, towards and channeling that towards growing the pie rather than fighting over the slice, and bringing the right people together around a table to achieve a much greater impact. And I guess the way that I do that, like I said, is always ensuring that the regional voice is heard, but then that we have the right people around the table and trying to work to get those right people around the table.
And so, how do regional organisations really activate global connectivity?
Well, this has been, I think, really hard, Catherine, over the last 12 months. Zoom's been great, and, and we all lived in that online world and still do, and probably will continue to do so. And that's been fantastic for existing relationships. But what I've seen a lot of businesses struggle with is this making of new relationships and this building of a network on a global scale when you can't actually meet people and you can't actually be at those events and conferences, and have that visibility. And it feels like a lot of countries have turned back inwards, and therefore trying to make these connections are quite difficult. And one of the areas we work within BridgeHub is our landing pad, which is where we work with offshore technologies and companies to come to Australia, test trial proof of concept, and then start having their technology in use by producers, by the whole supply chain. And that's become really difficult on a number of levels because people can't travel. So I think the ways in which businesses can do this is really through existing networks and then trying to get those warm leads globally. But we've also got to have faith that the problems that we're solving in our businesses are problems that globally people are facing as well. And if we're solving a global problem, there is always a global market. So to businesses, I would say, it's about coming back to really looking at the problem you're solving. And if there is, a global market for that, then having those relationships and expanding globally through organizations that already have established and warm relationships is really important.
And so, how can our listeners support the work of BridgeHub to really support you guys in creating more impact?
So I really think it's being open to the conversation in regional Australia and educating yourself to some extent, and questioning, and having that inquisitive mind about the regions and the opportunities. And then also, you can jump on and follow us at the bridgehub.co, and follow our story online on Twitter and also on LinkedIn.
So thank you so much, Dianna Somerville, for sharing your world and your wisdom with TradeSquare.
Thanks, Catherine.
TradeSquare is Australia's first business-to-business marketplace connecting people, brands and organisations into this diverse ecosystem in a unique global landscape. Through pivoting, transforming and reshaping, Australian businesses have an opportunity to create the model for the future that aligns with the world's needs and leveraging the power of a collaborative approach. Through the TradeSquare podcast, we will bring together dynamic, diverse and thought-provoking leaders from business, government and organisations to have conversations to further enable new thinking for the future. For more information on TradeSquare, head to www.tradesquare.com.au and support Australian business economic recovery and growth with a collaborative approach to the future of business.